Virtuosos can throw a dagger further than a gun can shoot a bullet. I should give a Virtuoso my bullets, and it could throw them at the enemy, and maybe it would connect. I don't even care if it's good. I do not care 2 licks of Balthazar's sweaty ballsack if this class is good. I have been playing it for the entirety of PvP this season, and I have been having a great time just because I enjoy playing it. I want other people to have fun as well. I don't want people to have to develop spider hands and piano reflexes in order to play this class. If I was a new player and I saw Rama and I tried to play this class, I would have quit the game by now. Because I would think that Guild Wars 2 has the worst combat system in any MMO, which it does not. It has the best, but you would not know that playing this class. This class is awful and either needs to be finished or honestly completely reworked and redone. This is your class mechanic. This is not your class mechanic. This is not your class mechanic. Tactical Reload is your class mechanic. If you don't take Tactical Reload, you cannot play this class. Again, it's the fast hands problem from my original Warrior video. This is around which the entire spec is being balanced, the existence of this button. And if that is the case, this is a bad and poorly designed spec, and it needs to be redone. Why the flying fuck are all of these not instacast? Like, this is instacast, but moves you, so it cancels Dragon Trigger. This isn't instacast, so you can't use it in Dragon Trigger. This isn't instacast, so you can't use it in Dragon Trigger. And this is the only one. Same thing with this and the heal skill. Like, you can make them worse. I don't care. It should work with your class mechanic. This is game design, like, not even 101. This is like game design 10.5. You're gonna be broken, then make them worse. Change the numbers. Nothing is overpowered because of how it's implemented. Everything is overpowered because of the numbers on it. If Sword 5 on Warrior did 9 billion damage, everybody would be using it in the game. Since it doesn't do that and its mechanics suck, no one is using it. It doesn't need to have good mechanics. It should. This entire class should get an overhaul. Holy cats. There's so many ways to fix all of this without doing anything to change the skills. And yet that's what they always default to. Give it a range attack that doesn't go 900 range. Hey there, what up? I am Pseudo. This is going to be my Bladesworn is awesome but jank video. Hopefully get it all compiled into one place. This gun saber wielding class is really cool in theory and kind of not super great in execution. And this is going to be my one-stop shop for why I think it's jank, my experience with it, and hopefully we can go from there and focus on builds. But this will be the reference video that I will link people when they ask, why is Bladesworn jank? Why, you know, this class is kind of cool. Why is it? Yeah, this is it. This is not going to really focus on balance. We'll touch on that a bit. This is a build crafting channel after all. But this is going to be the last video where I just talk about, hopefully, the jank of this class, and why I really think that Warrior in general, but mostly Bladesworn, really needs some quality of life updates. Actionable fixes to most of these have been in like other posts I've made in other videos, so really, if you want, I can link to those in the description, but go watch those videos, go read them, if you want actual actionable fixes, because I don't like complaining about things without providing fixes, but holy cats, this class is jank. Alright, so if you have been following for any length of time, you'll know that for the past 5 years, Warrior and now Bladesworn in competitive modes has been really carried by 1 or 2 traits or skills that are so overpowered at the time they supplant the actual class mechanic of Adrenaline and prevent ArenaNet from having to actually address how utterly outdated, jank, and completely broken in a bad way the rest of the kit is. Once these traits or skills are removed from viability, the whole thing collapses back into not great Bill, I will call it. This is now the case with Tactical Reload, this skill, which reloads all Bladesworn's ammunition skills before it reloaded every ammunition skill, which was ridiculous. If you watch my previous Warrior video, you'll know that the entire class in competitive is being carried by fast hands, and when you can't run fast hands, and when you have a mediocre spec like Bladesworn, it no longer becomes viable, because you can't run fast hands, because that's in a trait line that doesn't synergize with the rest of Bladesworn. Who would have guessed that? But more importantly, when you remove Tactical Reload right now from Bladesworn, which I kind of did, eliminating shouts, being able to reload it. Please don't revert that change. I'm not saying that was a bad change. I'm just saying it should have come with other stuff. This is more of a class mechanic than Dragon Trigger right now, Tactical Reload is. And it really makes the rest of how jank Warrior and now Bladesworn really is in general, and how unfinished the entire class is, really shines through. So let me explain. Right now, kind of touching on current state of PvP balance, Spellbreaker's great in World vs. World. Want to say that? Fine. Bladesworn in PvE? Fine. Big number, does damage, kills fights, good. Historically, before, when you had 9 reloadable healing shouts that could be reloaded by a Bladesworn tactical reload, that was the flavor of the months, as let's say, because it turns out having 9 heal skills is really, really good. The rest of Warrior's kit's just outdated, jank, and straight up non-functional comparatively. To give you some idea of this, and best illustrate the lack of quality of life updates that Warrior has received over the years, Warrior is so outdated that it still has a trait that affects the efficacy of its downstate skill. No, I'm not kidding. It's in discipline, it's on the first line, it competes with Warrior Sprint, which is a ridiculous trait. Holy cats. However, this is just talking about balance and viability, numbers can be tweaked, and the community, myself included, have already made plenty of posts on how to update warrior skills with little or no work, basically just numbers tweaks. Save the miracle of actually getting some of these skills reworked. Go read those posts, many of which I can link here, but really just go check my other warrior video, my entire paper I wrote on it, and yeah, myriad of them on the community forums as well as Reddit. Lots of really passionate warrior players that I'd like to see stick around and get some of this fixed. Hopefully some of the jank fixed, let alone like actual reworks to skills and whatnot. So, diving into it, Bladesworn specific jank. There's a lot of it. Dragon Trigger boost. I'm sure you've seen this if you followed any of my streams. Dragon Trigger boost. The second one in Dragon Trigger that shows up right here that moves you. Yep, didn't move me there. No reason for it. Didn't move me there. No reason for it. Still fails about, I want to say 70% of the time on inclines, and about 40% of the time on just flat ground, especially in the PvP maps, which I feel like got the least amount of testing, especially if it's in a spot that is already, especially if it's in a spot that you've already attempted to move from with Dragon Trigger boost, and say you're using Daring Dragon, or you reset your cooldown somehow and go back into Dragon Trigger, it will just still not move you. So you'll do like this little tiny barely hop forward dash, and then you'll go back into Dragon Trigger and just do a little hop forward dash again. And it feels like trash after waiting 2.5 seconds to actually sit and charge and try to hit something. I've put a lot of fixes for this on the forums. My ideal fix is just have it elevate the character like, 10 units into the air and make their collision 0 and do the movement checks like twice. I don't really know why it does this. I don't know. I mean, if it failed once, it's hitting something and failing again, right? But there's so many things you can do. You can make it a true teleport, you could give it an evade frame, you could make the character box basically 1. I don't know how their code is, but without seeing it, that's all I can suggest, but I'm sure there's ways. Dragon Trigger Reach, the third skill. Normally, in PvP, this happens a ton. If it has gone up a slight incline, or like, say, sometimes this golem down there, if I go into reach, it'll probably, hopefully I can get some footage from PvP, but it'll just not hit things if it's gone up and then down, because while the projectile goes up, the actual hitbox only goes up, and it does not come back down. And I shouldn't call it a projectile, the line attack that Reach sends out. So 90% of the time, if something is lower than you from where you're casting it, this will just not hit them, which is pretty cool. Also, we'll get into this later, none of these pierce. Why? Like, everything else in the game pierces. Also, this doesn't go 900 range. It says it does, and then it dissipates, and it doesn't explode. So it doesn't go the full 900 range. Really cool. I have a little amusing short of bullet drop illustrating this. So if I back up to 900 range on this, at exactly 900, it will not hit the target. And it will not explode like the Kala projectile, so extra won't hit the target. So that one did. Why does that one hit it and this one doesn't? Weird, huh? That one goes the full 900. This is not 900. They both say 900. You'll still get the error message, cannot drop bundles while in the air, when pressing weapon swap. Let's see if I can illustrate it. See? This one I can actually illustrate right here. So cannot drop bundles in the air, but if I press F1, it will not read this. It will actually swap out the gun saber. Maybe fix that? I don't know. Tactical reload. If you cast tactical reload and have another ammunition skill queued at the same time, and tactical reload goes off first, it will not actually reload the other ammunition skill you had queued. The best example of this is if you have double tapped flow stabilizer and are trying to use the last cast of it. A lot of the time this will just not reload. It did work there, so your mileage may vary, but I've definitely had that happen. That's probably the least replicable of all of these. All of the other ones are pretty much replicable. It's awful. So all of this jank that I've talked about so far is replicable, save that last one. And this is on top of the very real 2.5 trade-offs of losing access to regular warrior burst skills, losing a weapon swap, and no longer being able to equip 4-on swap sigils to take advantage of fast hands on this class. Let me repeat that. Bladesworn has 2.5 trade-offs. You don't get normal warrior burst skills. You have to use flow instead of adrenaline. You lose a weapon swap because you can only equip the gun saber. All of these skills suck, by the way. They really, really suck. This is okay, but it takes 5 ever to cast, so it's really, really bad. But you lose your burst skills, you lose your weapon swap, and you lose the ability to take advantage of those 4 sigils like Revenant can. Really, really, really egregiously terrible. I don't know why anyone new would ever try this class. Anyway, let's get into mechanical jank. Dragon Trigger stance can still not be cancelled by pressing F2. This is the first thing that I brought up. So if I go into Dragon Trigger, I can't cancel this by mashing F2. Why? Why? Why do I have to move? Why is this the way you cancel it? I have to take my hands off, in my case, the controller, or in normal cases, the keyboard, in order to even play this class when I go into Dragon Trigger. It feels like trash. The skill is in the game. Just make it kneel. So because of this, it's almost impossible to aim flash step. Because you can't aim this like normally, like I have to literally take my hand off the keyboard, it's almost impossible to actually aim flicker step in PvP. Like if I try to do this and swing my camera around and I'm moving at all, it will just cancel. If I use my left mouse button to move myself accidentally while holding down the right mouse button, it'll just cancel. And I know you can turn that off, but in order to aim your camera at all, you need to have it on, which is ridiculous. So that'll just cancel me 90% of the time in PvP. Also, again, this is not a teleport. This is a 60-second cooldown for a 300 movement skill. Yes, I know you can reload it with tactical reload, but you can't use tactical reload while in Dragon Trigger, so there's no point. You can't make that argument. This is not a teleport. This is like ancillary, no animation movement. Like, what is this? The only animation I had there was from barrier triggering on me from using the last charge of this. This is, honestly, in my opinion, really lazy. It needs a true teleport, or at the very least, you need like 40 charges on this or something, or it to be like at least 600 range, maybe more. This is so short. On Skyhammer, if you go below those platforms and are trying to teleport up to it, you can literally only do that if you aim your camera directly above you, which is unbelievably hard to do, while not getting CC'd. Like, let alone actually all the balance things where this class no longer has stability and can just be CC'd out of nothing. Third mechanical jank thing. If you use Dragon Trigger stance and select a target, the stance will continuously positively tracking the target like a compass, even if they run out of 5,000 distance that you can select them at. So like think Greatsword, Mesmer, auto attack, beam on the target. Like I would like kind of track where this guy is. Oh, it actually detargeted him, but I'm still moving. This is very funny. If I used like Dragon Stance and this guy was an enemy, right, and I targeted him, and he ran out of the 5,000 range aggro, it would, like, if he ran over there and it deselected him, if he was an enemy, it would still continuously make my character aim toward him. Like, this is technically a bug in my favor, but also it's kind of not, because then I don't know if I have a target selected. And it's just like, what? Why? You can technically aim Dragon Trigger by toggling on and off action camera. That's insane to expect a player to do. And again, I also need to take my hand off my movement skills so I don't accidentally cancel this. This is ridiculous to ask a player to do, especially if you're billing the class as, oh, it's the simpler class, it's Warrior. Dragon Trigger, are you gonna get me out of this? Oh my god! Action camera toggled on, guys! It worked! It worked! This Ranger's still hitting me from 1500 range because Rangers are bullshit, but it worked. Now I need to toggle off Dragon Trigger, and now I'm dead. This class is unplayable. Woo! Guild Wars! We're having fun. We have fun here. What? Why? Why can't I just spin my camera? Why can't I spin my camera without fear of canceling this? What the actual F? Alright, going into core warrior bugs. I'm sure there's more than this, but these are the ones I run into a lot. Greatsword 5, this still fires off in random directions, especially like if I target this guy and it'll like run toward him and then fire into this wall for no reason. That feels pretty great, especially since it's your 5 skill. This is a horrible skill also for being your forward skill. This does nothing and doesn't pierce, or it does pierce, but it's a projectile. Like, all of Warrior needs an update. Anyway, Greatsword 5 just fires into random directions. Pretty cool. Sword 2, one-handed Sword 2, the leap. Let's see if I can get out of combat here. I'll probably have to go to Narnia. One-handed Sword 2, the leap, just doesn't connect now. Even if you leap from melee range, it'll just, a lot of the time, not connect. Also, why is this one target? And why is I think Sword 2 might be more than one target. Why haven't we just gotten a standardized number of targets for like every melee thing in the game? Like, why isn't it either just 3 or 5? Why is Dagger 2? Why is this 1? Why is Mace 6? Like Mace 5, it hits 6 targets on Warrior? Because this game hasn't been updated since the Stone Age. Greatsword has movement, but that's what it's used for. That's what I use it for. All of Warrior weapons, now that they've nerfed the shield trait, every single weapon on Warrior, except for maybe Main Hand Dagger on Spellbreaker, is trash. It is very, 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 very bad. It is very bad, including Gunsaber. They are all extremely bad for their own special reasons. Yeah, this hits one target, and this hits one target. Why? Why does everything else get to hit like 50 targets on every other class? Anyway, yeah, one-handed Sword 2. Anyway, just talking about jank, this just doesn't connect a lot of the time. This just fires off into random directions. Defiant Stance says this has a 1/4 cast time. This is absolutely 1/2 second. I have tested it. It is interruptible at 1/2 second. Fix this, or at least fix the tooltip. That's pretty great. Signet of Stamina, this still says it doesn't have a cast time. It still has not only a cast time, but it still has the old cast length animation, so unless you cancel it with something else, it will do the full animation, which is awful. Just since we're on the topic of animations, after you do a Dragon Slash, Bladesworn will do this, like, haha moment, where they hold their gunsaber in the air. Why is that there? Why do they need that? It looks stupid unless you cancel it. Like, again, and also you can't force cancel Rush, and you can't force cancel any of these because you can't still Gunsaber, so you can't force cancel any of these skills, which would be good, because Gunsaber 5, if I weapon swap here, it actually moves me further and feels good to use. But Gunsaber 5 normally just moves you 450 range, and then stops immediately. And then there's like a second of aftercast where you have to wait for your character to stop moving. It also still moves toward whatever you have targeted, which is trash. If I'm using a movement skill, I want it to go in the direction a character's facing. I don't want it to go towards what I'm trying to run away from. Rush and Sword Leap and... Anyway, that's mechanical stuff. Let's go back to just jank that doesn't work. Signet of Stamina, so fun fact here. Let's see if I can get it to do it. So if you queue Signet of Stamina with a Signet with a cast time and Doliak Signet, and the Signet trait, Signet of Ferocity, it will not actually give you the Signet of Ferocity buff. So let's see if I can do it here. Right there, it only gave me 2 stacks, but I used all 3 Signets. So if you queue this, then this, then this, it only gives you 2 stacks, not 3. And that is absolutely replicable. Cool. It's almost like this has a cast time, even though it doesn't say it does. Weird, right? So, let's move on to my just personal jank complaints about this class, and I know the community has a lot of these, like not being able to sheath your Gunsaber and stuff, and you still pull it off your back because it's just a Greatsword's clone instead of literally just pulling it out of the area where the Gunsaber sheath is, and they could have just reused the grenade kit animation pullout, and it would have looked like better, at least. But yeah, let's get into this. So, personal jank complaints about Bladesworn. Gunsaber 3. This new one that they added, where it consumes all your charges, which completely defeats the purpose of an ammunition skill anyway. You can cast this over your shoulder if you're running away. The 2 and the 1 you can't, so you need to be facing, and it'll still consume your ammunition, which is fine because Gunsaber 2 is trash anyway, and you just use it to pump barrier. So none of these can be cast over your shoulder, you need to be facing them. All of these skills now, except for this skill, which is okay, Cyclone Trigger is fine, all of these other skills take way too long to cast. This has an enormous aftercast. This takes 4 years to cast, so you're never gonna interrupt anything. I have started casting this before people have started rezzing in PvP and not been able to interrupt them because they res the person faster. That is gross. This you can't cast over your shoulder and it does no damage. And hysterically, this still roots you. This hits 3 targets and still roots you. Guardian just got, yeah, I know, right? Guardian just got the ability to, or the movement penalty removed from their 2 skill, which hits as hard as this, and casts faster, and moves them. And is a whirl finisher, and has the same cooldown. What? Anyway, going back to actually just, jank complaints for a sec, you can't sheath your gun saber, even a tonic would do for this. You don't get the effect of legendaries that you farmed at all. You can see I have a couple legendaries, well, a legendary on me, as well as a dope infusion. Not complaining about the infusion because that doesn't affect anything. You don't get the footfalls even. You don't even get the footfalls. It doesn't affect any of the projectiles. It doesn't affect the trail. It doesn't color your gun saber. It doesn't color your projectiles. It doesn't color anything. It doesn't color your dragon triggers. It does nothing for you. It's ridiculous. Again, I am complaining about this because I love this class. I love the idea of this class. I hate the execution of it. It feels like you just went, oh, give it a kit, and then did nothing else for it, which I'm pretty sure is what happened. And then all the attention went to developing Mechanist. Anyway, legendaries don't affect gun sabers in any way. No trail, no projectiles, no footsteps, no dragon triggers, no swap animations, nothing. So this cool legendary that I spent all this time farming to get doesn't do anything for me. Really feels good, ArenaNet. Feels great. So let's get into balance for a second. All of Bladesworn's utility skills suck. Every single one. This is arguably the least trash one. Its healing skill is okay, but that's only because Warrior has historically had very powerful healing skills. This is okay, just because its cast time is so short. All of these skills are awful. Making this a PvP skill, or PvE skill, making your stun break a non-ammunition PvE skill, is the stupidest thing on God's green earth I have ever witnessed. This is terrible, because it's a projectile and can be blocked. This is awful, because again, it's a PvE skill, and just completely defeats the point of ammunition regardless, because say I use this, right? Say I use detonate cartridges and overcharge cartridges. It'll recharge, you have charges of it, or you have ammunition of it, which you have 2, and then you get more charges of it. There's gotta be a better way to do this. I haven't thought about it for more than 8 seconds, but say it just has 5 charges, right? And then you can reload those. There, simple, easy. Yeah, and also, the funny thing about stowing the gun saber, the model's literally in the... Yeah, it's literally in the animation, if you want to call it that, is literally when you pull out Dragon Trigger. There's a... I wouldn't call it an animation, but there's a stance for it in Dragon Trigger that you put your thing in, so they could easily do that. And then Flow Stabilizer is the last utility skill that is okay, but really only gives you Fury and actually lets you play the class, because otherwise Flow takes so egregious to build. Again, I want to highlight this. Warrior already had a problem with Adrenaline because it doesn't get it for free or save it between fights like Necromancer, and now Necromancer just gets on-demand Shroud with Harbinger. You have to build Adrenaline to use your burst skills. Now you need to build Adrenaline to use a Dragon Trigger, and then you need to sit in one place for 2.5 seconds. And not somehow by the miracle of God cancel it while you load bullets, and then hope that one of your Dragon Triggers, 2 of which I've mentioned, are almost impossible to hit, and the last one is melee range only in front of you. To do mediocre damage in PvP. Again, it does a bajillion damage in PvE, whatever. No one cares about PvE, not even ArenaNet at this point. Everything does 40k damage plus, it's ridiculous. This system, especially considering you originally had to be in Gunsaber to originally even pull out Dragon Trigger in the original beta, is... did you get someone off the street to design this class? I genuinely want to know, because I just want to ask them what they were thinking when they... I don't even want to ask them that. I want to ask them if they've played Guild Wars 2 before, when they designed the systems for this class. Because if so, it wouldn't have been designed like this at all. An Elementalist player could have designed this class, and it would have been better designed than it is right now. I would rather take the lack of effort that is in Catalyst, where it's just a stat machine, and have a gun saber, than this system. Because this is horrible. Anyway, kind of touched on this originally. Now that shield has finally been removed from viability thanks to the removal of the CDR from Shield Master, the cooldown reduction, all of Warrior, I can say this with confidence, except for main hand dagger on Spellbreaker, all of Warrior's weapons are mega outdated and suck balls. Like, they're really bad, including Gunsaber. This is the only good skill on it, period. All of the other ones are trash. This should only have one. If this had one ammunition, it would be better because you could just pump it for barrier, which is what everyone does. This takes way too long to cast and doesn't even stun in PvE or PvP. This is okay because it gives you Aegis and blocks missiles. And the Aegis now reflects projectiles if you have Shieldmaster equipped, because Shieldmaster has, again, been bugged since the inception of Warrior because this class never gets updates. This doesn't even move you 450 range unless you cancel it. This doesn't go 900 range. This used to be a good weapon. Greatsword is arguably the best weapon on Warrior, just because this has an evade and does damage like everything else in the game. But it has a 10-second cooldown, only hits 3 targets, only moves you 450 range, this roots you, this is terrible, this fires off in random directions, and this applies vulnerability to targets. Wow, great. 1 stack of vulnerability, ArenaNet. I'm not asking for my auto attack to be amazing. I'm asking for the rest of the kit to make sense. And this is the best weapon on Core Warrior. This is the best weapon. I don't use this language a lot, but I have to say this. For real, ain't it? What the fuck? Why are you so afraid to give anything nice to Warrior, or at the very least, finish your jank unfinished elite specs? It has been 2 years. It has been 2 years. Even ignoring jank, considering balance for half a second, do you have any idea how stupid giving Necro on-demand gravity well in Shroud and mobility on a 21-second cooldown, which is lower if you trade it, they literally have pulsing gravity well. Not to mention making it auto-regen 500 HP per second in the weaker on-demand Shroud state that also generates resources for your elixirs. How broken giving Distortion to Virtuoso with all its other evades, dodges, and blocks and invulns is, along with Piercing. And I want to emphasize this. This is a gun saber, right? Even though its name is Bladesworn, which is stupid, and it should have been called Dragunner or any kind of dragon pun. Like, I don't know why it's not. It ostensibly has a gun. Fine. It's a pistol attached to a sword. Fine. Pistols go 900 range in this game. Fine. It doesn't pierce. Virtuoso gets piercing, 5 target, 1200 range shatters, and fucking throwing daggers. Virtuosos can throw a dagger further than a gun can shoot a bullet. I should give a Virtuoso my bullets, and it could throw them at the enemy, and maybe it would connect. Do you have any idea how good Shroud is on Thief? Not to mention making every one of its new skills a teleport. I don't blame... Honestly, I don't blame CMC. I don't blame Roy. I don't blame the developer of this class, because clearly it got all the lore emphasis and nothing for, like, no effort or testing put into it. That's very plain to me. It's not a priority for them, especially with the radio silence we're beginning getting. But, for God's sake, I don't know why they're afraid to just let it, like, ride as overpowered. Like, the interaction between tactical reload and having, like, physical skills reloadable and having shouts reloadable was stupid. If you are arguing that, yes, it has tactical reload, it can reload some of its ammunition skills, this is your class mechanic. This is not your class mechanic. This is not your class mechanic. Tactical reload is your class mechanic. If you don't take tactical reload, you cannot play this class. I have some meme builds where I take signets and stuff. That's a joke. This is around which, again, it's the fast hands problem from my original Warrior video. This is around which the entire spec is being balanced. The existence of this button. And if that is the case, this is a bad and poorly designed spec. And it needs to be redone. If you need to take tactical reload away from Bladesworn to make it fun, I don't even care if it's good. I do not give a flying fuck or 2 licks of Balthazar's sweaty ballsack if this class is good. I have been playing it for the entirety of PvP, and this season I have been having a great time just because I enjoy playing it. It is fun to me. I want other people to have fun as well. I don't want people to have to develop spider hands and piano reflexes in order to play this class on a keyboard, let alone on a controller like I do. That is insane. The weird thing is, Elementalist is my second pick for the least amount of work. Right up there with Willbender, but Elementalist really is my second pick for the least amount of work that went into it. But it literally is a stat machine. The fact that you can run Celestial Gear and have 10,000 stat points with the fully stacked whatever their buff is nuts. Regular 3-stat gear gives you 3,600, and that's if you max everything. Celestial gear is already broken and ruining build crafting. And again, I'm going to have a different attitude, or hopefully more positive attitude going forward on this channel, but I need to get all this complaining out now, because Celestial gear and the lack of attention to things like Bladesworn and the jank on it is really killing the game for me. If I was a new player and I saw Rama and I tried to play this class, I would have quit the game by now. Because I would think that Guild Wars 2 has the worst combat system in any MMO, which it does not. It has the best, but you would not know that playing this class. This class is awful and either needs to be finished or honestly completely reworked and redone. This is trash, especially if we are expected, or if at least I am expected, I'm not going to make an assumption that anyone else is even going to buy their own expansion. If I am expected, as the only Bladesworn player left on Earth, even Valen's playing other stuff now, if I am expected as the only Bladesworn player on Earth to buy their new expansions, which aren't going to have elite specs, I expect equal a development time for all of the elite specs, which honestly in it, after Hugh left, clearly isn't the case. Like, you do so much right, and this is just, it hurts. I don't know if you've got some kind of pool to see if you can make, like, all the warriors quit by a certain date or what. It's just so weird. Anyway, been making it auto-regen 500 HP in the weaker on-demand Shroud state, how broken giving Virtuoso 1200 range throwing daggers and shatters is that pierce, and do you have any idea how broken on Shroud is on Thief? Giving it even more teleports. It's so weird to me. It's so weird to me again that this spec seems to be one of, if not the most featured. Bladesworn is the most prominent in the End of Dragon story with the introduction of Detective Rama, who has the best writing and most character out of any character in the story, and yet it had the least amount of work and testing go into it. If I was a new player and saw Rama and tried to play the game, I would have quit by now if I tried Bladesworn, thinking that the combat in this game was some of the worst I've ever experienced in any game, let alone in an MMO. It's been nearly a year and a half since this garbage can of a spec came out, and they haven't done anything to fix the jank, let alone fix the balance on it. I, honest to God, have no idea how the spec was released, seemingly by people who got paid in what I'm assuming is actual money, and went, yup, seems fine to me, ship it. It's literally the simplest design ever. They gave it one kit, and they couldn't even get the swapping kit messages right in the error, which I showed earlier. What? Why? And again, I pointed this out in my original Warrior video. I don't know if Cal saw the video and copied it for one of his streams.
And assessing, does this have a purpose, at least somewhere? And is this viable? How does this contribute to fulfilling the slot, trait line, etc. that it's intended to? How easily could this be made viable? Or is it so unhealthy, in quotes, for the balance of the class, does it need to be reworked entirely? In this sense, balance is very different from being good or being fun. There are three different things that I think a lot of people confuse.
So let's just hop into the goals. There's a couple quotes here that we'll see throughout the PowerPoint with some quotes from the philosophy document. The first and most important goal of balance is not actually here, and that is that the game needs to be fun. Believe it or not, that is the most important thing that we consider when designing a balancing game is fun, and it's not balance. Because you can make a game that is very well balanced that is not fun to play, and no one's going to play that game. So we need the game to be fun, we need the game to be fluid and fast-paced is this idea of Guild Wars 2 combat.
I like this philosophy regardless going forward. This is something I emphasize a lot of the time. There's a difference between something being balanced, being good, and being fun. I would prefer a game that is fun. I don't expect everything to be balanced perfectly, that is impossible, and I don't expect everything to be good. I do not care. I do not care if this class is good. I have been playing it regardless. So maybe this will fall on deaf ears and they'll just go, yeah, there's somebody playing it, they're still enjoying it, we'll never do anything. I'm sorry if that's the case in advance. I like the idea of this class, but the only reason I like it is because I like playing in games what is the worst, and I like playing things in a weird way. I do it in Hades, I do it in Borderlands, I do it in Guild Wars. I have never played meta builds, and I'd like to think that's why people are on this channel, and that's why people are paying attention, because they like build crafting. It's ridiculous. Vindicator has Mirage jumps. Mechanist might as well be from a different game. What is going on? No, I don't want the old tactical reload shout ammunition system back. That was unbelievably stupid. That was the worst thing they could have had, and the fact that that was so dominant in the meta is just illustrative of the fact that things like fast hands and tactical reload just carry and prevent the update of Warrior. It's really dumb. Don't do that. I don't want it to have one thing that's stupidly overpowered, because then you're not playing Warrior, you're playing Tactical Reload. Then you're not playing Warrior, which has Adrenaline, you're playing Fast Hands. Just make those things baseline, and then we can go from there. if you made those baseline, it wouldn't fix the class, but it would help. I've said that a lot. I'm not going to stop saying it. And barring a rework of Core Warrior, because even if they rework Bladesworn, Core Warrior is so egregiously outdated. Again, it still has a trait that affects your downstate. Is there just it's got to be with Trenchcoat Guy. Like, Trenchcoat Guy's got to be the one who's just like, no, don't update Warrior. Ever. Don't give it a real teleport. Don't give it any kind of usable skill. Give it a kit. Yeah, that's good. Give it I'm going to blame Trenchcoat Guy. I don't want Tactical Reload Shout Ammunition back. That was dumb. It was almost as stupid as Fast Hands existing and hamstring Warrior's development in the first place. I do not care if this class is good or not, personally. I will play other things. I will find a way to have fun with this game. Lord knows I will find a way to make something that is trash kind of fun for me, and I will have fun that way. But for God's sake, actually make it fun for other people, or at least playable. I have at least 20 other detailed, researched, probably 1,000 hours of effort trying to just give them simple solutions so they don't have to rework skills, they can just adjust numbers, so that this class is playable. Making this root you, making F2 root you, would go a long way and cancelable, so you could just double tap this. Then they wouldn't have had to spend all that time fixing the F2 bug. Oh, and just a side note, I figured out how Daring Dragon works now. Originally, it said you have to pay a cost of 10 flow to re-enter Dragon Trigger. Fun fact, for the first year that this class was in the game, up until October 4th, I think it was, you didn't have to pay that. It would only check if you had 10 flow. Now, you actually have to pay 10 flow to re-enter Dragon Trigger, and then you need to pay another 10 flow to load a fucking bullet! And it wasn't in the patch notes that they fixed that! That fundamentally changes how that trait works, and they didn't even include it in the patch notes. That's the level of attention that this class gets. Ah! Anyway, sorry. I don't care if this class is good. I just want it to be fun and playable for other people. Especially if we are continued to be expected to support this game through mini-X specs that aren't getting elite specs. I want to know that my money is going equally into class development of the specs we have. And ArenaNet, since Hugh left, like I said, it's clearly not. I really, more than anything else in feature-wise in this game, even if you don't read it, it will just make me feel better. I want, when you buy gems or something through the gem store, a little text box that's like limited by 20 words so that you can suggest where you want your development money to go. So that you can literally vote with your wallet. Because honestly, ArenaNet, you can do better. Harbinger got a completely broken use for Blight when everyone rightly threw a fit in the beta, when the Blight did nothing. And now the Blight does everything. Like, if you read those Harbinger tooltips, the tooltip is literally a page long. Like, it will fill half your screen. All the potions, they're like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. They do everything. It's insane. Catalyst at least got numbers buffs and is a damage and stat machine right now. Mechanist and Vindicator might as well be from another game for all their interactions they have. All Bladesworn has gotten, since its inception, has nerfed. And I'm not talking about the tactical reload thing. That was good. Like, it shouldn't have affected shouts in the first place. But Lush Forest doesn't function how it originally was supposed to, even though Unshakable Mountain does, and their entire excuse for not making Lush Forest actually cool your stuff down at the last charge was we don't want people to sit at the last charge of whatever they do, which everyone does anyway because you're just spamming this as well as all your other skills. This even consumes all your charges, so it procs like Unshakable Mountain. Like, clearly there's some conflicting design philosophies with this ArenaNet, and I'd like you to get your ducks in order and then hopefully give them gun sabers that work. Because this is really embarrassing, honestly. And it's not going to help your bottom line if new players see this and try to play this class. It's really gross. Anyway, it's been
14 months.
Finish or rework your elite spec. Thanks.